Well, the final and most complex phase of the policing operation around London is underway in the lead up to the Queen's funeral.
More than 10,000 police officers will be on duty for the day and hundreds of volunteers on top of that. Joining us live now is Met Police Detective Peter Bleksley. Have I got that right? Sorry?
You have indeed,
Okay,
although I'm a former detective,
Sorry,
not a serving one.
I should have read that, it's right there. But it's quite the security operation. They're saying the biggest security operation in Britain since World War II. What kind of planning goes into this?
Well, the planning has been many years in the making, and of course it's involved so many different agencies, not only the House of Windsor, but the military, of course, and they've played a very significant role in this. We'll see many of them tomorrow. We've seen them during the week. But not only those roles of pageantry in the astonishing uniforms, there's been much covert work being done, which is quite simply not seen. It won't be seen by us because this security operation stretches from the sewers to the skies and beyond. Wow. It is vast.
So just an administrative question here, folks, for those at home. I'm going to do some broadcasting from Westminster Abbey in the morning, and I've got to be in place by 5 a.m. for a security sweep. That's just an example of how big this thing is. How much of that is the funeral? How much of that is the fact that we've got the US president here as well?
Yeah, that's an added factor. And of course, whenever a US president comes to the UK and the police and the security services of the US have to deal with the British police, tact and diplomacy are very useful tools because sometimes the Americans want to do it their way, and other times the Met Police might say, well, can we actually consider doing an alternative? But it's all going to be fine. Of that I'm absolutely sure. We've got heads of states from around the world, many of whom will have wanted to bring their own security details. So the planning in this, in a short space of time, the short-term stuff, has just been 24 hours a day. It's quite remarkable. And there's two key words for me. Number one is diligent. If everybody is diligent, and I know they will be, so many police officers are taking enormous pride in being able to be a part of the send-off of who they so often call the big boss. Not their chief constables, not the commissioner of the Met. They affectionately call the late Queen the big boss. So they're going to be absolutely on their tasks at the absolute top of their abilities. So if they are diligent, then I sincerely hope the whole event will be able to afford the dignity that the occasion and the late Queen Elizabeth deserve.
I know I've been out and about for most of the last week and a bit and had so many conversations with police officers, many who'd cancelled leave or days off to be here. I talked to one who was from an area where they had 300 people apply for 10 spots to come down here, so it was a bit of a competition. But one of the funniest stories I heard was apparently they can't wear high-vis because the Queen hated the high-vis vests.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. And of course, it's very difficult for police officers to look smart in high-vis and a stab vest, right? It's a really difficult thing. We've had a lot of senior officers recently in the UK because British policing is in a bit of a crisis, and they've all been saying that standards matter, standards of appearance. Well, tomorrow the police officer's appearance will be astonishing, and if you're going to look at their shiny boots, put some sunglasses on because they will have been polishing them like you won't believe.
What are you looking for tomorrow? I mean, you've got maybe the biggest turnout ever in British history, not just the Mall, we just saw some people camping out overnight from Westminster Abbey all the way to Windsor. What are you looking out for specifically that might just be a little bit out of the ordinary? Well,
threats come in many different shapes, forms and sizes. The most concerning one would be the terrorist spectacular. Think 9/11, something like that. Well, our security services and the military and the counter-terrorism police of the UK will have been across everything like that. You then have the fear of the lone wolf terrorist, somebody operating on their own and perhaps perversely motivated to carry out some kind of terrorist attack. Then, of course, you have somebody who might just be unwell, for example, you know, could come to the event with the intention of breaking cover from the ranks of the wonderful public who are here paying honour, and that kind of threat. Then, of course, you've got disorder and protest.
Right. Well, we saw one in Edinburgh the other day, didn't we? A protester was taken to the ground pretty quickly.
Yeah, and it's back in the 1980s, of course.
Yeah.
The Queen was riding a horse in the Mall, just a few hundred metres from here, when somebody fired 6 blanks from a pistol at her. And in fact, on that famous day, the Queen remained more composed than her horse did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She brought the horse back into line, didn't she?
And only last Christmas, on Christmas Day, a man was arrested in the grounds of Windsor Castle, allegedly in possession of a crossbow. And that man is now awaiting trial. So these threats, not only are they historic, they can be current. And everybody will be at the absolute top of their game, and have been, sadly, since the Queen died, to ensure that.
Well, and also worth pointing out that these instances so far have been minor. Just a protester in Edinburgh, and you saw a gentleman was taken to the ground after he tried to rush the casket in Westminster Hall just a couple of days ago. But all things considered, it's gone pretty well. People have, 99% of people have just been in the moment and enjoyed paying their final respects.
Overwhelmingly.
Yeah.
But nobody can afford to be complacent.
Yeah.
And all the officers, as they are briefing their officers tomorrow, they will be saying, come on, let's be diligent, let's be vigilant, and let the late Queen have the send-off she deserves.
There must be technology they don't tell us about, because I've been in a few, even during the Platinum Jubilee, I was at events, and the police officers, you'd be there for hours and nothing, and then all of a sudden they'd just pick someone out of the crowd and go, that one. And as soon as they pulled them out, you'd be like, oh yeah, actually I can see why you did that. But they must have some kind of intelligence that we don't know about.
Intelligence-led policing is a real buzzword these days. And of course, there will be a lot of monitoring, shall we say, of persons of interest in the build-up to tomorrow. And talking of technology, if you looked at President Joe Biden's cavalcade today, you'll see aerials protruding from the backs of many of the vehicles in tandem, and one, which was an adapted Mini, had a kind of like a bank of data collection and very kind of encrypted covert communications kit built into the back of it. Because, for example, for President Joe Biden, he might have to respond to a threat somewhere else in the world, not just something that necessarily happens here in London.
Interesting. Pete, appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks for coming on. We'll talk to you again soon. We'll do stay with Sky News all day, folks, as we bring you the key moments as they happen. So from 10 o'clock this morning, Kieran will be live from Canberra as Australia prepares to farewell its Queen.
Then at 2 p.m, Laura Jays will be live from here at Buckingham Palace, and we'll bring you all the final preparations in the lead up to the funeral.
From 4, Paul Murray and Peter Credlin host a special preview from Buckingham Palace. Then at 6, join us for a special ad-free broadcast of the Queen's funeral from our partners, Sky News UK.
We promise it'll be the best you can watch in Australia. At 8 p.m, the funeral begins. We'll bring you all that live and in full right here on Sky News.